Good morning, you all. Welcome to our first active viewers. Here's the breaking news. One of Joe Biden's central election campaign themes was restoring unity to an angry and divided nation. 12 months after assuming office, things are not any better, writes our some journalist. Long before the sun had risen over the dome of the US Capitol on the day that Joe Biden was sworn in as president, technicians on the inaugural platform tested the teleprompter he would later read from by scrolling through America's most celebrated sermon. When I first saw the lines of Gettysburg Address on those screen in front of the presidential podium, I thought it must be some kinds of sick joke. However, the words of Abraham Lincoln could hardly be described as being out of place. Washington, after all, looked that morning like a military encampment. Troops had slept overnight in the corridors of Congress to protect it from seditionals, just as their forebears had done in Lincoln's day. The scaffolding of the inaugural platform had been used only 2 weeks before as a staging post of the January 16th massacre. The Confederates and the Confederate flag had been held aloft in the halls of US power as American once again fought American. So the question posed by the country's 16th president seemed especially pertinent here as the 46th occupant of the office prepared to assume power. Could this country long endure? Rather than speaking that day of national renewal, a staffel of presidential inaugural, Joe Biden focused on national reunification, and though it was 3 words from his address that instantly entered the history books, democracy has prevailed. It was 3 short sentences that set out his presidential mission statement: bringing America together, uniting our people, and uniting our nation. A year on, however, that plea for national unity sounds more like magical thinking. Far more coming together. The United States is in an even more perilous state of disunion. Often it feels as if the only thing that unites the nation is mutual loathing. America seems to be engaged in a forever war with itself. Over the past 12 months, tensions have been escalated over long-standing points of divergence such as abortion rights. The country has found new things to argue about, such as vaccine mandates. It has also discovered new ways of fighting old battles. The conflict over critical race theory, the latest front in the country's left-right culture wars, is a novel way of carrying on the centuries-old debate over the legacy of slavery and segregation. During the past year, moments with the potential to help bridge divide, namely the conviction of Derek Chauvin, the former police officer who murdered George Floyd, have been supplanted by events that ended up hardening divisions. The trial of Carl returns, the teenager acquitted of murder after shooting dead 2 men during racial unrest in Kansas, Wisconsin, was an obvious case in point. To those who believed he should be convicted, Rittenhouse was a homicidal vigilant who recklessly waded into a racial protest carrying a military-style semi-automatic weapon. To his supporters, he was a patriot and American hero. One far-right website labeled him cynically. The teenager became the latest poster boy of polarization. The debate surrounding his trial degenerated into a rage-filled ruckus of overlapping and interlocking arguments about gun control, self-defense laws, policing, and double statement in the criminal justice system, as in now the norm in US society. Policy questions involving complex and nuanced issues were thrust out in the midst of the firestorm, often in the most binary and emotive terms. One of the richest scale of American division, however, The Rittenhouse trial was only a moderate quake. The aftershocks of January 6 continue to be far more seismic rather than becoming a moment of Trumpian repudiation. The Capitol Hill insurrection ended up having a radicalizing effect on the conservative movement. The so-called big lie that Trump won the election, a French conspiracy theory in the hours after Joe Biden was declared the victory, has since been adopted as mainstream Republican thinking. What we are now witnessing is something without precedent in modern America. A former president who continues to enjoy widespread backing from this party, refusing to accept the result of a clear-cut presidential election, nor did the assault on democracy. It is defenders would argue in on the right of January 6th. In the past year, Republican-controlled legislature in more than a dozen states have passed restrictive voting laws. Laws have also been enacted, making it easier to interfere in a partisan way with election administration. Part of what Democrats claim as a slow motion coup in regain the White House at the next presidential election. Polling suggests, however, that more Republicans think that democracy is under attack than Democrats, another measure of disunity. Free and fair elections. The very mechanism designed to peacefully resolve disputes in a civil society are themselves now at the center of the society splitting dispute, and at the core of that row is something even more fundamental: the failure to agree even on incontrovertible facts, in this case the objective truth that Biden own. How can there be unity in a country stewing in misinformation and conspiracy theories when there is no longer a sheer sense of reality? Truth is usually a prerequisite of reconciliation. Beyond the report for Sakti USA.